Struggling with setting goals is a very common occurrence. Lots of people struggle to set goals and stick to them. The most common example that comes to mind is New Year's resolutions. People set a New Year's resolution within 2 weeks. It's gone. They've forgotten about it. They've not stuck to it. And I think the main reason for that is people don't know how to plan setting goals properly. They don't know how to lay out a path for themselves in order to be able to accomplish that goal. And today I'm going to walk you through the methods that I use to set goals, and it makes it so much easier. It makes it 100 million times easier to set a goal and to accomplish it. And I've actually helped other people with the same thing. And let's get into the first thing you want to do when you're setting a goal, and that is setting the goal. What is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What is your mission? And you need a good reason for why you're setting that mission, and I'll explain why later on. But what is your goal? What are you trying to do? So let's take, for example, you're a student in university and you're studying to be a doctor. And you've all these big tests coming up, and you've finished them all, but you've sort of been your grades have sort of been lagging, and you're not really going 100% with it. And you decide, right, okay, this is my last exam of the year, this is the big one, this is the important one, and you want to get the highest result you can get. You want to get an A+, you want to get like the best possible result, or whatever way they grade those exams. I'm just saying A because I don't know any better. I've never been to uni. But so you're setting your goal, you want to get an A in this test, right? Why do you want an A in that test? What's your reason? Because you want to be a doctor, obviously. That goes without saying. But why do you want to be a doctor? What is your reason for wanting to be a doctor? Is it because you want to help people? Is it because you want to help cure diseases? Is it because you want to, because you want to travel? Doctors can be well travelled. Do you want the money? Like what is your reason? And I'd suggest having a good reason for it, and again I'll explain why in a minute. But after you've set your goal, after you've thought up all your reasoning for it, now we're into the nitty-gritty. And I think this next step is where people tend to fall short. So there's 4 steps in setting a goal. The first one is planning. The first one is setting a goal. The second one is planning. This is where people tend to stop, because they've said they want to accomplish this thing, but they've not given themselves a way to actually do it. They don't know what their goal, they don't know what their daily goals are. They don't know what their steps are in order to get to this place. So here's your planning. Here's how you're going to plan for a goal. First thing you want to do is to break it down. You want to break down this goal into bite-sized chunks, because people tend to set a really, really big goal, and setting big goals is fine, but they set this really, really big goal and they get overwhelmed. They're staring up this mountain that they've made, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to even go about beginning to chase this thing that they've set themselves. They don't know where to start. And the best way to start with a big goal is to break it down into smaller ones. So let's keep using this analogy of you're wanting to be a doctor, you're a medical student, and you have this test, right? This big test, right? What comprises this test? Well, what comprises a test in general? there tends to be topics in a test. Okay, so first topic, what's the first topic? Let's say it's about the human brain. So first thing I need to do is learn everything I can about this topic of the human brain. Everything I can. So there, what you've done already is you've already broken this big test down into a smaller chunk, which is now, okay, I need to learn all I can about this thing. Okay, so let's say you're starting the year, and this test is at the end of the year. This chunk that you've broken it down to, let's say it's a monthly goal. So you've got a yearly goal, which is completing the test. Then you've got a monthly goal, which is learning everything you can about the human brain. Now, let's break it down again. Let's break it down to a weekly goal. So what topic, what part of the human brain am I going to study first? So there's different parts of the human brain. So in my first week, I'm going to study the prefrontal cortex or whatever. So that's my study for this week. Okay? Then after that one, the next week, you're going to study the next part of the human brain, and the next part, and the next part, and the next part. Divide your goal down in a way with the time you have that allows you to basically complete it slowly but surely over time. And you want to make sure that you divide it correctly with the amount of time you have. So if you're setting a goal for a year, you want to set your thing in a way where that'll be finished by the end of the year, or close enough anyway. In this analogy I'm using of a test, we've got this test at the end of the year, and I'm just assuming there's going to be 12 topics on it, because the first topic's human brain. There's 12 months in a year. This is just the way I'm trying to break this down. Break it down with the time you have, right? If you don't break it down, you're going to get really stressed out. My girlfriend is currently in college, and she is doing English literature. And one day I was talking to her, and she was getting really, really stressed out about this exam that she had, or not an exam, about this essay that she had due. She was getting really, really stressed out. She was really upset. She was crying. She'd completely lost the plot because of all this mountain stress built up about this essay that's due. And she had like 2 weeks or something like that, just under 2 weeks to get this thing done. She had, I think it was 12,000 words to do, and she'd only done like 2,500 or something. So like she'd done a wee tiny bit of this test. And she came to me and was like, I just feel really stressed. I don't know what to do. Like I just don't feel like I can do this. And I said to her, no, wait, okay. You can do this. You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're looking at the big scary number of 12,000 instead of looking at a smaller number. So I said to her, right, how many days have you got left? You've got 10 days, okay. You've got 2,000 words left. What's 10,000 divided by 10? Or what's 10,000 divided by 10? It's 1,000, okay. So you don't need to do 10,000 words. You just need to do 1,000 words a day up till then, and you will have it done. And I've seen you do more than 1,000 words. I said to her, I've seen you write down. I've seen you do 4,000 words in a day, and you're getting stressed out about 1,000. Think about it. And she thought about it herself and was like, do you know what? You're right. I'm getting stressed out about nothing. Because she was looking at this big scary number, this big massive goal, this big scary overhanging thing over her head, and she couldn't handle it because she didn't break down the goal. She didn't break down what she was trying to do. And the second she broke it down, she had it done in a couple of days. She was doing more than 1,000 words a day. She was doing like 2,000 a day, basically. Obviously, some days she was doing less than 1,000, but she made up for it. And she got it done early. She got it all corrected. She got it all handed in on time. She got it handed in early. She got it handed in before she was supposed to. Because she broke down her goal and she made it easier for herself to digest it in like bite-sized chunks. That's what happens when you break down a goal. It becomes easier. It becomes a lot easier for your mind to digest and for your mind to go about taking steps towards. Now, the next step, and this is the hard part of setting a goal. I think this is the hardest part of setting a goal, is execution. So you've set your goal, you've made your plan. Now, how are you going to execute that plan? Now, there's loads of ways that you can go about, staying consistent and staying on the path. I'm going to give you a few here, but there's loads of different things that you can do. And once you've set your goal, think about how you're going to take the steps, how you're going to stick to that. And I'm going to go back to the thing I said at the start about your reason. So this is number one, right? Your reason for wanting to do something is tantamount to how ferociously you're going to pursue that thing. If you don't have a good reason, you're not going to want to do it. If you want to go and be a doctor for something silly like, oh, the paycheck's good, you're not gonna feel very motivated by that reason, because let's be real, money doesn't buy happiness. Sure, it's nice, but money doesn't get you happiness. It's great, it can really make your life a lot easier, but it's not something that you're going to feel very deeply about on an emotional level. When I say think about a reason, I'm saying you want to save lives. Somebody in your family died that you were really close to from a disease, and it's stuck with you for years, and you want to make sure that nobody else dies of this disease, so you want to go and be a doctor to help cure it. That's the kind of reason you want. Something you feel really, really strongly about, something you're really emotionally connected to. That's a good reason. Something with a bit of substance. If you've a good reason, when your days are bleak and you don't feel like doing the work, it's gonna give you a boost. It's gonna give you a boost of motivation. I can't give up. There are people who are sick. There are people who are relying on me getting this exam done. There are people who need me to help them. That's a good reason. That's the kind of reason you want. And it goes for anything. Think about your reasons, and you can think of more than one reason. You can have multiple reasons. The more the better. So that's the first and number one thing that helps you with execution. The next is, I actually made a previous video about this, and it is removing unnecessary distractions and designing your environment. So what I mean by that is, when you study for this test, chances are you're going to have a place you like to go to. It can be a library or a cafe, a little cafe, or more often than not, your room. So let's say it's your room, for example, because it's the easiest place to apply this. So your room, it has a lot of stuff in it. It has a lot of distractions. There might be a PlayStation or TV or a computer or your phone, or there's books beside you. There's loads of different things in your room, things that can divert your attention. When you want to design your environment for a specific goal, you want to make sure that the only thing in your immediate vicinity is related to the work you're doing at that moment. So take your PlayStation out of the wall, take your PC and put it in the cupboard or something. Get all those distractions out of your vicinity. Get them all out of the immediate area that you're in, wherever you're doing this study, right? So that the only thing that can take your attention is the textbook in front of you that you're using. And this goes for anything, you know, if you want to go and be a YouTuber, or you want to, you know, you want to go to the gym more, you know, have dedicated spaces where the only thing you can do is the work. Do you know what I mean? Like have a recording studio for your YouTube, so the second you walk in there, there's nothing except recording this video and posting it. Or the gym, you know, have a dedicated space in your house, you know, for workouts where the only thing around you is weights. You know, design your environment, make it easier for yourself to not get distracted. Another thing is having your daily work at a specific time. So this is something I like to do, is having a specific part of the day where the only thing that matters to you is getting this work done. So I tend to do it in the mornings. Like right now it's like about 9:30 in the morning, something like that. And then giving yourself a little window of time where you do all your work and then you get it, and that's it, done for the day. You know, really just blast it out in like a couple of hours. I tend to do between an hour and a half to 3-4 hours, something like that. Get it all done, and you've the rest of the day free. And if you want to go back and do more, you can. But whenever you feel most productive, set that time and do your work then. Because if you do it every day at the same time, your brain will start to connect that time of the day with work, and then you'll be more in the zone. You'll be more willing to go and do it. You know, you'll be more switched on, and it helps to sort of get you the motivation you need, and to help you with discipline and stuff. When you've got a routine set out for yourself, and let me tell you, see, routine, it is golden. Setting a routine is so helpful for getting you to do things, because when you're just taking every day as it is, you know, it's like going back to step 2, sorry. You've no plan, you've nothing laid out for yourself, so you're going to find it really difficult to accomplish your goal for that day if you don't have a schedule or a routine or a plan written out for yourself. Focusing on your consistency over your quality. Now, I said there I do an hour and a half to 4 hours, and the reason I've not set one amount of time is because I know that some days I'm going to feel like doing the work more than others. Some days I'm going to feel tired, or I'm going to feel lazy, or I'm going to feel like I just don't want to do it. That's perfectly natural. Everybody has those days. But you can't let that feeling take away from your productivity. So here's the thing. Even if you're only doing an hour, even if you're only doing 30 minutes, 20 minutes, do something. Don't do nothing. Always do something. If you do nothing, it's a slippery slope, because then the next day you'll be more likely to do nothing, and then the next day you'll be more likely to do nothing, and the next day, and the next day, and the next. The laziness mounts on you over time. It's like a snowball. Eventually it rolls down the hill, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then eventually you can't stop it. You're back to square one. You've stopped. You don't know what you're doing. You need to do something every single day, even if it's only a little bit of work. Obviously try and do as much as you can, but even if you're only going to do a little bit, half an hour here or there, do something. Do the work every day. Make sure that you're always putting it in every single day, because if you're putting it in every single day, that habit will build on you, and then eventually it'll get easier to put in the work every single day, because it becomes a part of your day. It's like making your coffee in the mornings or eating your breakfast. You do it every day. It's a habit that you have, so you're more likely to do it every day if it's something that you actually do every day, if you understand me. So that's the execution stage, and then we get to the last stage, and this is the the accomplishment stage. So let's go back to our analogy of you're a medical student. So you've studied for a month and you've learned everything you can about the human brain, right? You've got it all memorized inside out. Now, one or two things is going to happen here. The first thing is you're going to get a big boost of motivation. And this is what you want to happen, but this doesn't tend to happen. You're going to get a big boost of motivation, and you're going to want to go and put in more work. So like, that was good, that was easy, that was so much easier. What's the next task? What's the next mission? You know, you've got the Olympian mindset of always running forward, even through the finish line. Keep going. And you set your next goal, and that's great. If you have that mindset after accomplishing like a chunkier goal, amazing, good on you. But the second thing, which is more likely to happen, is you start to become lax. You've accomplished this miniature goal that you've set for yourself, but now you're getting lazy because you've accomplished this goal, and in your mind's playing a trick on you, and it's telling you that you've already accomplished the goal that you needed to accomplish, even though it was only a small one. And then you start to give yourself more leeway. You know, you start to miss days, and then eventually over time you fall off. And the only way to really counteract this is to keep reminding yourself that there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger goal I'm pursuing here. I might only be pursuing little goals at a time, but there's a big goal that I need to get there, and this is only one step. You know, you need to constantly remind yourself of that. You need to constantly remind yourself that no matter how much work you put in, until that big goal's been accomplished, you're not finished. You need to keep going. You need to keep pushing forward. You need to keep the attitude. You need to keep that day one attitude, that day one motivation of, right, I've loads to do here, let's get at it. So those are the 4 steps. Those are the 4 steps of setting a goal, laying your plans out, executing, and then after you get there, what's the next step? If you stick to these 4 things that I've told you, you'll find it so much easier to accomplish any goal that you set yourself. Literally anything, if you properly lay out your plans. I understand sometimes it can be a struggle starting new things or setting a new goal, but if you don't set new goals for yourself, you're just going to get stagnant, and you're going to stay where you are, and you're not going to develop yourself. You're always going to stay stuck at square one. This is why goals are important. They're important for your growth as a person. So always be hungry. Always be looking at the next step forward. Always be ready for the next goal. And if you keep that attitude for the rest of your life, you're going to go places, let me tell you.